Mga kababayan, sa nalalapit na pagpapalit ng administrasyon, isa-isa nang nagtatalaga si President-elect Bongbong Marcos ng mga miyembro ng kanyang gabinete. At kaugnay yan, makakapanayan po natin ngayong umaga si Atty. Trixie Cruz-Angeles upang alamin ang kanyang mga plano bilang incoming press secretary. Ma'am, magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Magandang umaga.
Yes, Attorney, nabanggit po ni Presidential Sister at Senator Amy Marcos na isa ang Rizal Park sa mga tinitignan na pagdarausan ng inaugurasyon ngayon ni President-elect BBM. May impormasyon na po ba kayo ukol sa inaugurasyon? Ito din po ay ang tanong ni Sam Medinilla ng Business Mirror, Marie Sumali ng GMA News at Paul Samarita ng TV5.
Okay, wala pa po. Of course, as mentioned, tinitignan naman po talaga ang queue ng grandstand bilang isa sa posibleng venue para sa inauguration, pero wala pa pong final at wala pa rin po tayong mga detalye tungkol doon. Ang pangako ko lang ay as soon as ma-finalize po yung mga plano, i-release namin sa publiko.
Okay po ma'am, tanong pa po ni Sam Medinilla ng Business Mirror, sino na po kaya ang i-appoint ni President-elect Marcos as Secretary for Agriculture? If wala pa po siyang napipili, ano po kaya ang factors kung bakit pending pa din po yung decision niya on the said matter?
Okay, isa sa pinaka-importante sa agenda ng incoming President, isa sa pinaka-mahalaga sa agenda ng President-elect ay ang agrikultura. And therefore, ang selection has to be done carefully. Also, marami po kasing kinoconsider na applications. Simula po nang na-announce ang kaniyang pagkapanalo, marami po ang nagpipresenta at nagsusumite ng kanilang mga aplikasyon. So, to be fair, kailangan daanan, pasadahan po lahat yon at yun po ang nakakatagal sa selection.
Okay, ma'am, question from Maurice Umali ng GMA News. Any additional cabinet appointments are the names of Secretary Vince Dizon and Secretary Babe Singson are included in the shortlist for Transportation Secretary. Ganito din po ang tanong ni Paul Samarita ng TV5. Meron pa daw po ba kayong i-announce na mga bagong cabinet members sa mga susunod na araw?
Well, we know na merong pang forthcoming na mga announcements. We just don't know what day at saka kung sino po yun. Nasasabi na lang po sa akin when they are ready to be announced. So as of right now, wala pa po akong notice na may announcements for today.
Okay. Tanong pa po ni Paul Samarita mula na sa TV5, may mga source po na nagsasabing candidate to become Energy Secretary si Rodante Marcoleta at si Rigoberto Tiglao as palace spokesperson. Alongside Attorney Karen Jimeno, will you confirm ito pong pahayag na ito?
Well, we can confirm that those names are being talked about, but there are no decisions being made yet as of now. Wala pa po ang decisions on any of those names mentioned.
Okay po ma'am, dagdag pong tanong ni Sam Medinilla ng Business Mirror, may naging marching orders po ba kaya si President-elect BBM sa kanyang upcoming cabinet officials during the ongoing transition period? If yes, ano po kaya ang mga ito?
The only directive is to work with the transition teams and to begin the familiarization and transfers. So very cooperative na. This is in accordance dun sa sinabi ni Presidente Duterte, forming the transition teams for each of the agencies. At kami naman po ay nagko-comply din, in particular dun sa aking staff and myself sa incoming PCOO team. We have already coordinated with Secretary Andanar and with several of his people and the potential heads of agencies of GOCCs and attached agencies to the PCOO. Sila po ay nag-umpisa na po mag-coordinate ng kanilang transitions din.
Okay. Attorney, tanong naman po mula kay Maris Umali ng GMA News and Paul Samarita ng TV5. Can you give us some details on the meeting that transpired between President-elect Bongbong Marcos and members of Congress led by Senator Subiri and Representative Romualdez? What legislative agenda have they discussed that will be included in his first State of the Nation address?
I think right now we have not been informed of what had been spoken about or what had been discussed at the said meeting. We will possibly put together a statement regarding that possibly within the day or by tomorrow.
Okay. Attorney Trixie, another question mula sa GMA News. Ivan Mayrina, bypass po ng Commission on Appointments sina Chairs Nograles ng Civil Service, Justol of COA, and 3 Comelec Commissioners. Is PBBM keen on reappointing them?
We have no information as to whether or not they will be reappointed. We are only appreciative of the gesture that the President-elect's opinion or choices on the officials are taken into consideration.
Okay, Attorney, pag-usapan na po natin yung opisina pong inyo pong pangungunahan. Bilang incoming press secretary, Attorney, ano po ang mga programa sa PCOO ang nais ninyong ipagpatuloy or plano ninyong tutukan?
Well, in general, we have to make an assessment of all the pending projects, and we'll decide later on whether to prioritize them or to keep them possibly on the back burner. Wala pa po kaming decisions on which stay and which ones go. We are, however, pushing for the accreditation of vloggers to be invited to some of the briefings, especially those conducted by the President-elect. So yun pa lang po, yun ang isa sa aming na-formulate na priority for the incoming PCOO. We're also looking at things like opening up discourse and looking at issues of misinformation that seem to be a hot button topic nowadays. There are no final plans yet for any particular projects, just that these issues are things that we are looking at to consider when prioritizing projects for the PCOO.
Okay, Attorney, tanong naman po mula kay Alvin Baltasar ng Radyo Pilipinas. How often daw po ang magiging press briefing ninyo with Malacanang Press Corps?
The plan is to have them once or twice a week, and more if needed. The regular once a week are for the updates on pending issues, and then possibly a second one if there are issues that need to be addressed immediately. There are also, we're not going to limit it, of course. If it is necessary, we will have more briefings. But other than that, the plan is 1 or 2 every week.
Okay, Attorney, isunod ko na po ang tanong ni Pia Reñada ng Rappler. Will PCOO under your leadership allow all journalists and media groups to physically cover presidential events?
I understand why she's asking that question. I think we'll have to take a look at the existing policy first and make a decision later on as to how appropriate they are for the current times. Other than that, we'll have to wait and see, pending a review of all existing policies regarding the coverage in Malacanang.
Okay, Attorney, karagdagan tanong po mula kay Alvin Baltasar ng Radyo Pilipinas at Red Mendoza ng Manila Times. Paano daw po palalakasin ang information drive ng incoming administration sa gitna ng pandemya?
Paano palalakasin? Well, first of all, I would like to commend the existing PCOO for great efforts in the information dissemination on the pandemic as well as other matters. We're just going to look at the effectivity of the platforms that are being used and the messaging. We are not saying that we're going to overhaul the entire PCOO or the systems that they have put into place. So right now, what we're looking at, again, to recap, are just the platforms and the messaging. Is this getting to people? And we'll also make an assessment on their effectiveness right now. So you'll have to forgive me because assessments are going to be a major part of making the decisions on these policies.
Okay, mukhang nasagot niyo na po ito kanina, Attorney, pero galing po ito sa iba pang mamamayag. Ano? May naging pag-uusap na daw po ba kayo ni Secretary Martin Andanar para sa gagawing transition sa PCOO?
Yes po, I've met with Secretary Andanar and our teams have been coordinating already for the transition. Particularly, nag-start na rin po yung mga incoming heads of agencies to the attached units and agencies of the PCOO.
Okay, Ma'am Trixie, tanong naman po mula sa DTV Pilipinas, will the PCOO continue the upgrade of government-owned stations like PTV and IBC13 and shift them to digital terrestrial TV?
Yes, that is the plan, but we have to find the money first. Yeah, of course, we're always looking not just to upgrade, but to make things more efficient. So we have a big job ahead of us. So that is, of course, one of the priorities that we have set.
Okay, Attorney, additional question from DTV Pilipinas. Would the PCOO continue to push for a unified People's Broadcasting Corporation that was pushed by the previous administration?
Unified. Again, this will be subject to assessment. We need to meet with the incumbents right now, the people who will be remaining with PCOO, and see the recommendations as well as conduct a more thorough assessment on this proposal. We'll have to give you the decisions later on. It will still be subject to a major assessment.
Okay po ma'am, inihayag po ng National Press Club o NPC na hagandilang ipagpatuloy ng Marcos administration ang suporta sa Presidential Task Force on Media Security. Ano po ang inyong masasabi dito?
We are always concerned about the safety of our journalists. We are crafting possibly a new policy on this one. We possibly also make it a little more expansive. We're well aware of the concern of our NPC regarding this. So we have been responsive. We're already working on it.
Okay, follow-up question din po mula sa mga kasama nating mamamahayag. Ano po ang plano ninyong gawin o ipatupad para sa pagbibigay proteksyon sa ating mga kasamahang sa media?
Kasama din po yun. Right now, like I said, we will be reviewing the current policy and possibly expand it. So, we're looking into welfare, not just safety or protection, because apparently the current policy is focused on attacks, physical attacks on our journalists, but we'd also like to look at expanding it to include welfare of our journalists. Some of them have been hit very hard by the pandemic, so we'd like to take a look at that trend or that expansion of the policy in that direction.
Okay, Attorney, bilang incoming Press Secretary, ang inyo pong mensahe sa ating mga kababayan?
I'm just going to ask that, we thank the 31 million who had voted for the president-elect, and we hope that we can live up to the expectations of the public. Thank you very much.
Okay, maraming salamat po sa paglalaan ninyo ng oras sa amin. Incoming Press Secretary Atty. Trixie Cruz-Angeles, mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you.